Hello and welcome to today's live stream about NFTs. What are they? How do they work? That is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to make sure that everybody can see and hear me loud and clear. So yeah, if that is the case, feel free to drop a like, hit the like button, say hello in the chat. We want to make sure that you guys get the best experience out of it, and we actually can have a discussion, a conversation, and everybody can get the most out of today's live stream. So before I introduce today's panelist, I want to set a little bit the stage and make sure that everybody is on the same page, because I think NFTs or non-fungible tokens are a very fresh new term that probably not everybody is familiar with. So I will just share my status quo of knowledge about NFTs, and then we just go from there and have an open conversation. So again, feel free to share your thoughts, your questions in the chat, in the comment section. I will try to have an eye on that, and whenever possible, bring up your question and we will try to answer it. So what are NFTs? NFTs are non-fungible tokens. And before we talk about that, we maybe need to define why is that so special, or what are fungible tokens, or generally speaking, fungible things. So as you might know, I have a background in finance and in the banking industry. Therefore, I will use some examples from that area. So for example, a fungible asset, meaning an interchangeable asset, are, for example, currencies. So for you, there is really no difference between $1 and the other dollar. It has the same value. It is interchangeable. It is fungible. Actually, that is one of the main criteria for that type of currency or that type of asset. Same with things like stocks or bonds, for example. There are no real differences between stock, for example, an Apple stock A and Apple stock B. They are interchangeable. They are the same. There's no difference. How does that translate into the digital space? Or let me give another offline example. So what is a non-fungible token or a non-fungible asset would be, for example, an art piece like the Mona Lisa. I think it's in the Louvre in Paris. And although there are many copies of that painting, there's only one original, meaning this one is not fungible, is not interchangeable. There's only one original. In the offline world, or in the real and the tangible world, that is kind of an easy concept to understand. But why is that such a big deal when we're talking about the internet, when we're talking about digital? Some of you are probably old enough to remember the good old days where you bought CDs to listen to music. Maybe some of you are maybe even older when you bought cassettes and mixtapes. But let's stay with CDs. When the digital era started, we need to understand that everything that exists online or in a digital form is basically just a copy. So for example, when you send an email to someone, you're not really sending an email, you're sending a copy of the thing that you wrote on your computer. Same with, for example, audio files. That became a big problem for the music industry, because an MP3 file, for example, that an artist produced was now very easy to copy, very easy to share. And therefore, the music industry and the artists lost a lot of revenue. And I think one of our speakers, panelist Roshan, can probably give a little bit more insight around that topic later on. And that was a big problem, or still is a big problem. Basically, everything that it exists digitally, you can easily copy, and therefore it is not scarce. Fast forward to, I think, 2015. That was basically when the first NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain appeared. And now we basically have the option to create unique assets, we are able to create unique audio files, video files, programs, tickets, whatever, and we will have a deep conversation about all the different use cases that we can have with NFTs today. So for me personally, the first time NFTs really hit my radar was when the artist Beeple sold some of his artwork. I think it was on Christie's, one of the biggest auction houses, for I think $69 million. That was for me kind of the moment when I realized, okay, that might be something you should look a little more into it. And I think there are a lot of interesting use cases from selling art, selling virtual real estate, maybe even tokenized voting rights and whatnot, tickets and so on. And we will have a conversation about all of that. And allow me now to bring on our speakers for today, because all of them know probably way more about NFTs than I do. All right, let me just make sure everybody can see you guys. All right, here we go. So as I mentioned before, Rashawn Basie Clark, or should be known to probably a lot of you guys in the Caribbean, an artist that sold one of the first dancehall NFTs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then we have Trevor Forrest, CEO of 876 Solutions, and we have as guest Stephen Delavo, president of the Caribbean Blockchain Alliance. So we have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge today. So I just want to open the conversation here. Feel free to pick up where I stopped, or maybe add things that I might have missed, because again, I'm by no means an NFT expert. And I will try to moderate the comment section and the chat. So everybody that's watching right now, feel free to share your thoughts, put your questions there. And now, gentlemen, the stage is yours.
Basie, you're muted.
The ongoing challenge with virtual meetings. You're on mute. All right. So again, thank you for setting this up, Simon. Great to meet you, Trevor, Stefan. It's a pleasure to be on the panel. I by no means profess to be an expert on blockchain technology, so I leave that to the experts on the panel. I just know how it serves me in terms of NFT. You are correct, Simon. I am the first reggae and dancehall NFT publisher from April this year. I mean, if anyone did it before, I don't know. But as far as I know, I did it first, and then Morgan Heritage also had one a few weeks after that. We know there are a lot more people becoming aware of it, and it's interesting time. It's exciting times. I also am working on a new NFT collection for my new album in October. So every time as months go by, you learn more, you see what other people are doing, the appetite for it becomes more present. And I'm happy to share my experience and also learn on this discussion. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Trevor, here we go.
Come on. Pleasure to be with everybody. I mean, kind of know everybody on this chat, and it's really exciting to speak about NFTs, especially as it relates to the music industry, which I do play in a little bit from a production standpoint. But what I think is very exciting about the whole NFT space is the kinds of problems that NFTs will solve. I mean, separate and apart from the hype that is around it now, with people and all of those selling things for millions of dollars. But I think when it comes down to, ground level, after all the hype, it offers some very, very interesting opportunities for not only musicians, but just creatives in general. Because if you think about the fact that, if you take, for example, the music industry, a big challenge now, given how music has evolved from, when you used to buy a vinyl record to, which is something that unless you had the equipment to do it, you could never copy a vinyl record, right? Then you went to, cassettes, which for a time you couldn't duplicate cassettes until they came out with dubbing machines. And then we went to CDs, and, again, it was thought that you would never be able to duplicate a CD until the CDRs came out. And then came MP3s. And these things totally turned the music industry and the kinds of revenues and all of that kind of stuff that was at play in that industry, completely turned that industry on its head. But not only did it affect the record companies, it affected the artists a lot, because if the record company is not getting money, the artists not getting money either, because they're contracted to these companies. So the thing is, what if there was a way to again create some sort of means for the artist or the creator to directly engage the people who are most interested in their works, without the need for this, middle entity or a bunch of middle entities. And what if you could also at the same time deal with another problem that existed in the music industry, which was artists getting their due, right? And this is not only in the music industry, but it's across all creative industries, where when you create something and you sell it, its value may change over time, but what you originally sold it for is what you originally sold it for, and you will never probably see the value that it has acquired over time come back to you. So how do you try to find a way to ensure that, and layer on top of that something like that happening in a digital space where anything can be copied, anything can be downloaded, anything can be duplicated, and so on. So it's a real problem that exists when we're moving into the digital space. So how do you solve that problem for the creative, the interaction with their fan base, their admirers, and so on? And this is why NFTs through blockchains represent such an interesting proposition, because it solves and answers and provides an avenue for solving a lot of the problems that creatives battle with in their own space. So I think it's a very exciting time. It's a great discussion to have, and looking forward to sharing some of the views and different viewpoints in the discussion.
Yeah, I think we can probably, or at least I can probably learn a lot today about the whole topic. And I think that might be a good starting point. Maybe we can get to some of the most asked questions. And maybe, Stefan, you can pick it up there. You probably know more than I about it. Like, what is the technical side of it? I know that NFTs are primarily stored on the Ethereum blockchain, that you need an Ethereum wallet to buy them, to sell them, that there are different marketplaces like OpenSea, for example, where the CEO, I think, got caught for insider trading with NFTs. So I think we can also learn a lot how to not fall for scammers and grifters in the space out there, because where quick money is being made, there are also these people not far away. So maybe we can start there. What do I need to do if I want to buy or sell or create an NFTs, and what are maybe one of the main hurdles or things I need to be aware of?
Yeah, sure. So outside of Caribbean blockchain lines, I've also been an NFT collector for just over a year now, actually. And
Do you own some
the
CryptoPunks?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed that. CryptoPunks is interesting because it was actually free when it started, and then the community just blew it up. Um, but yeah, for me, it's mostly been art. It's like 99% of it has been art, specifically, art pieces from artists, not so much collectibles, which may have been a mistake on my part. But starting off, especially, it was mostly and a year ago, everyone understood, why NFTs were important, but nobody foresaw how much it was going to blow up just in the span of a few months, really, because, I started August last year, and between that and say March is when it really blew up, and the amount of interest, the amount of um, just pieces, collections in the space have skyrocketed. And I think the most important part too is just the fact that, I mean, there's so many different things. Even if you look at the technical aspects, the fact that nobody can go in and change it if you do the contract properly. Um, it exists in perpetuity because it's connected to the blockchain at that point. Because and especially for digital artists, most of them will know that if you make a digital art piece, you put it on Instagram or Tumblr or something like that, and you don't really own it. Instagram owns it basically, so they get the benefit
Right.
and the upside for it, whatever you do there. Um, and the other thing too is that if you put something on Instagram, anyone can go and download the picture, put it on their Instagram, and say they made it. So for digital artists, especially, there's a lot of theft, and obviously the same happens with music. Um, but with NFTs, because you're now attaching, and not won't go into like cryptographic hashes, but you basically have these digital signatures that are completely unique, and you attach your art to it, or you attach your music to it, and now it's stored on the whatever blockchain you have, because most of it is on Ethereum. There are a number of other blockchains that now have NFTs and NFT capability. So it's now stored in a block in this chain that exists basically for essentially forever. So nobody can go in and delete it or replace it. You now have this ownership of it, which is frankly revolutionary. And what we've seen is, again, especially for artists, it's this mass kind of uprising of artists who now have more avenues, who now have more opportunities to actually own their work and sell their work in a way where there's less middlemen. You don't have to wait for someone to ask you to commission something for them. You can make the work you want to make and sell it on the open market, or even just store it on a blockchain and not sell it if you don't want to. You basically have uh, the right to choose whatever you want. And on the other side, from a buyer side, it means that if you buy an NFT, it means you have full ownership of it. And IP, for example, is something that's still being really fleshed out. But at the very least, the piece itself, you have that ownership of it. No one can take that away from you. No one can say, "Hey, you didn't buy this," because it's now tracked on the blockchain, and you can pull that up from anywhere. You can pull that transaction from anywhere to show that, no, I own this. I bought this. I bought this in June 2020, and that record will exist 10 years from now, 100 years from now. So that this idea of decentralization and perpetuity is really important. So and to answer your question, for people who want to start, this is going to sound weird, but Twitter is where everything happens in this space. So if you want to follow specific artists or specific buyers, you could more likely than not find them on Twitter. And just check out the marketplaces. So how I started before things really blew up, a friend of mine told me to go on Rarible, and I just looked at what was there, looked at the specific artists, followed them, interacted with them, ended up buying a piece, and from that first purchase, it was like, oh, this is pretty great. I really enjoyed this experience. I really enjoyed also supporting this artist who made great work. So that alone kind of snowballed into engaging more of this community, becoming actually friends with that particular artist, and then building and watching this community form. And like I was saying earlier, one of the biggest things that I've seen is these artists come together to support each other, to purchase each other's pieces, or from the sales they've made, or at the very least share each other's pieces to get further support from outside. So there's a lot of this kind of organizing and this kind of autonomous effort from artists to not have to wait or not have to rely too much on other people to come to them. They push each other up, basically.
Rashawn, maybe you can add to that, but my question would be, so do you guys see the move to like that every artist is going to release the artwork, no matter if it's a picture or music or whatever it is, in the future only as NFT on whatever blockchain?
What I expect is the regular up and down spike that follows the crypto space, where you see, 4 years ago everybody was buying Bitcoin because it was past 10,000. 20 had this big bubble, and then the bubble burst, right? And then you find only the people who really were in it for the long haul starting to buy, which is what you should do. But most people who were doing it for fast money start to sell when them see the dollar drop. And you see this boom, then deflation, then boom. So I suspect most of people who get involved with NFTs now are getting in there because they see some success story, and because they think that if Tory Lanez make so much off of it, or if Eminem made so much off of it, then I want to do it too. But to Stefan's point, this is not really something that is a short-term solution. This is a long-term, as he said, perpetuality. Perpetuity. It goes on and on, the ownership. And it is not only for musicians, it's a game changer. Blockchain and the concept of NFTs can change land ownership, titling, insurance. There's so many other things that between the smart contracts and the blockchain can be served with NFTs. That this is just the tip of the iceberg. I was on a call yesterday, and I said to folks that when you're managing your estate as an artist, and you need to ensure that your content, your music, your rights pass to your children, NFT is probably the best way to securely pass that without no label jumping up and saying, oh, I own this, or no middle person. You have it, you pass it on, and the ownership is locked in. So yeah, of course, people are playing it now in where it is being most monetized, but I think it's way beyond that. For the short term, yeah, I think every artist should think about having some NFT part of their release. I think whether it is a collector's version, whether it is a graphic art, whether it is exclusive music that's only available with NFT, whether it is benefits like my new NFT, unlockable access to unreleased.
I think you're
that's only available there.
No?
All right, let me lock off the video. Maybe it will help.
All right.
I don't know how much of what you heard so far. Do I need to start over, or you were hearing me along?
No, man, we heard you till the last 10 seconds. That was fine.
Okay. Right. So for my new NFTs that's coming, I'm going to have some that unlock release music exclusively on the NFT, available with the NFT. And also access to concerts, backstage, access to dub plates, because for me, what I observe in Jamaica, where I think the value is in the dub plate space, because NFTs is tied to a collector culture, whether it is, collectible cards or, that kind of stuff. But in dancehall, the most collected product or thing that people collect the most is really dub plates. That sound system culture will $500 on a dub plate, a customized song from Bounty or from whoever for their, and that's almost like an expensive hobby. It's really like, for some it's a career, but some do their own jobs on the side, and dub plate and sound system culture is something that they love. Now, if you put NFT as a layer over that to guarantee, I can say to someone, you buy my NFT, you have a lifetime 50% discount on my dub plates. It means that they would see the value in it. Sorry, a bike is fast. They would see the value in it, in buying this, because they know they can unlock some added value. And so the NFT shouldn't just be something that looks good like a piece of art, but I think if it has some utility with it, it also adds to that long-term value. And it's still a developing space, so I would encourage every artist to, look into it, think about what you're doing in the space of what is the value of what you're doing, not just a song, but what else? Where's your community? Who are your fans? What would they want to hold on to as a collectible memorabilia of you? And start to engage a community like that. And of course, TOK will be on my album. I have them reunited for a track on the album, and we will be coming out with some TOK NFTs that will be, in my mind, I hope it will be successful, because it will be tapping into the TOK fan base that probably love us from a long time and want to hold on to something that's a collector's item that taps into nostalgia, memorabilia, and I believe that is a space where we can play in the near future for NFTs.
Yeah, and I think what I found also interesting is that because they are smart contracts, you can build in a lot of functions, but in that case, the royalty function into the NFT, meaning you can say, okay, 10% royalty every time that NFT gets sold on the secondary market. So as you said earlier on, I think that's you can pass that on to your children, or maybe build a passive form of income, or assets on that way. So I found that very interesting, and I think we can maybe dive a little deeper in a second about the nature of smart contracts and what is actually possible with that type of technology in the future, because I think, as you said correctly, that right now it's more about the art and collectible and scarcity about certain art pieces, but I think there's so much more potential in the technology itself.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to I want to step back and because we've been saying a lot of very interesting things, but sometimes people may ask, like, okay, how does all this happen? How does it do all of this, right? And to start, let me kind of answer the question about, is it a bubble, or is it going to be around for a while? I think it will. So in the tech space, there's this thing called a Gartner hype curve. And, when you look at different technologies over, the past 20, 30 years, they've always kind of followed this action on that Gartner curve where, there's this upward swing on the curve, which is hype. And then everybody gets used to it. Then it becomes a little more, commonplace, and things settle down, and all the hype associated with it kind of gets more real, and then the regular person, starts to see the benefit from it. I think the same thing will happen with NFTs, especially because everything that's happening now, which is why we're living in such interesting times, everything that you see happening now with blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, all of these things, these are, seismic changes in the regular way of doing things, right? So one of the things that we're seeing here is this enormous interest that is spurred by, things that happened in the 90s with the internet bubble, and people say, well, I need to jump on this thing quickly. So people jump on this stuff faster, which means the curve goes up fast and comes down and goes to normality. So I think it's going to be around for a very long time, really because of what it can do, what it affords not only artists, but the people who want to engage with these artists. Because one of the things you have to understand, you see, art and art in whatever form it takes. If it's a painting, if it's music, whatever. Art is viewed differently by every different individual. And because of that, each person has a different view and value of what they see or what they hear. And because of that, the value of what you create today to the first person that hears it changes in 10 years for another person that hears it. So you're basically talking about, NFTs and collectibles for TOK. That's huge, because you have some people who have not heard TOK with anything new in the past, maybe 10 years. And they're like, yo, I would just so want to hear TOK again with something new that I've never heard before. And there's value in that, right? So being able now to say, okay, TOK creates this particular piece, and they do it one time. Think about it. Boys to Men come back together, create one song, right? The value of that. So somebody finds an unreleased Michael Jackson, never yet heard before. Somebody who is absolutely nuts, crazy over any one of these artists or groups values that particular asset, because it's how you have to look on all this thing. No, it's not music or paintings anymore. These are assets because they now hold value. They look at it in a certain way and they ascribe value to it. The value I ascribe to it may be different from the value you ascribe to it. But I may pay 10,000, you may pay 1 million. Right? The key thing is when you have this stuff in or as an NFT, whoever created it will always be able to benefit from the change in value based on who sees it. Now, question is, well, how does that work? Okay. So I can explain it easily from an artist's perspective. Why things with a painter? When you create a painting, and you create the original, and you sell that to somebody, you say you sell that for $1,000. Just say, nice easy round number. After you sell that painting, the only thing you see from that painting is $1,000. Nothing else. All right. Now, the person who bought that painting, they loved it. They said, yeah, $1,000 is great. I'm going to pay for this, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on a wall in my home. Then a friend comes over and it's like, oh my God, that painting just hit a nerve. It is so valuable to me. I'd give you $1 million for that. You're like, okay, sure. Cut the check. Now, the owner of the painting that paid $1,000 for it just sold it for $1 million. That person sees $1 million. The original painter doesn't see any of that. Not one penny, unless that owner decides to break them off something. This is what happens with not only paintings, but music, because in the music industry now, even when you put stuff on YouTube or and you have elaborate contracts with record companies, an artist never gets 100% of what they create. They never do. Why? Because there's so many people in between the artist and who's buying things that everybody has to get their pound of flesh. So out of $1, an artist might get, 10 cents.
Exactly. If he's lucky.
So what this new space offers now is through this thing called blockchain technology and smart contracts, which are now things that exist between the people who are exchanging, these items, these assets. Once you construct your contract to say that whenever an item is sold or whenever it changes hands, these are the things that must happen. The original artist must get 20% of whatever the sale price is at the time. So if it's sold for 1,000 today and 10,000 tomorrow and $1 million the day after, the artist through a smart contract in an NFT space is always getting 10 or 20% of the sale value, right? And you set that up at the beginning and you just sit back and just wait for it to get sold. You're getting your due, right? This is what, blockchain technology and what sits on top of it in the form of NFTs allows to happen for creatives. You always have a way to ensure that you get your due for what you created. So when you see, and it's always interesting to hear when, because Basie and I did another show where we spoke about and the kind of stuff that you're looking at to attach to a particular created piece. It's a collectible, yes, but it always has value that somebody can derive. Now, that's great for the artist, but that's also great for the person who is buying stuff, the collector. Because right now, I'm not just buying, an album from Bass or an album from Bruno Mars or an album from Boyce or something. I'm buying a piece of value, right? I'm buying more than just music because what I buy can have a whole bunch of stuff attached to it, which is valuable to not only me, but is unique to me. So, Basie could create 5, 10, 20, 100 unique versions of a single song that is put out there and minted as an NFT. And 10, 20, 100 different people can buy that, and everyone has a unique version of that particular item. Why is this important? Because some people tired of buying the same music that everybody else has. Right? They'll pay 99 cents for it. Yeah, great. But they might pay $10 for something that only they have.
Right.
That has stuff offered from the artist so if I know that, every time, Bass has a concert, I get 50% of the ticket, or because I bought this particular thing, I always get into his concerts for free. What would I pay for that? Right.
Exactly.
And so if I decide, I don't like Basie anymore, and I'm going to sell this NFT to somebody else who values it equally or greater, you know what happens? They get value, and Basie gets value again because it might sell for more, and he will always get his due because he was the original creator. And this is how creatives now have to think about what NFTs and the technology that underpins it, which is blockchain, offers you. It offers you a whole new set of possibilities of creating stuff and always earning and getting it due, no matter who has it. Yes, one person buys it and they claim ownership of it through the tokens, but value of art changes. When the Mona Lisa was created, it never sold anything close to what it sells for or is valued today.
Right.
The same thing happens to an artist. I mean, look at Bob Marley's works today are valued way more than when he was in the studio voicing them. Right? Way more.
Yeah.
Your children, your grandchildren, their grandchildren can benefit from this. This is what you call now digital legacy, right? So it's very exciting, and I think that creatives, artists, musicians, anybody, really need to take a serious look. Not only the creators, but the collectors, because as this market evolves, matures, what you have in your possession, so what Stefan has now, might be valued, $50, but in 10 years, it might be valued $1 million. Don't know, but understand how the stuff works, where you can get stuff, how you ascribe value to these things, and understand that different people ascribe different values to the same thing. And this is what this kind of space, this kind of technology now affords. The possibilities are endless and mind-blowing.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be quick. Just to quickly jump off that, just everything you're saying is absolutely right. And I think the idea of this is so interesting and so, I guess, mind blowing for a lot of people, because they look at everything that's going on. They look at these sales. They look at these artists coming up, and the reaction is always, well, why are these people spending so much money on art? Um, and it's really interesting because when people ask that question, and yeah, some of the prices are a little high. There's a bit of a bubble, but I think overall and fundamentally, the answer to that question is and should always be, well, why are you undervaluing these artists who have put in so much work and made these amazing works? And why has society undervalued these artists for so long? So when you ask that question, you realize, okay, maybe you need to rethink how you're looking at it, because at the end of the day, the amount of time and effort that's put into art is basically, art and music are the foundation of society. You can't have a functional society without any of those things. So to take something that's been enjoyed by everyone but not valued by everyone for so long, and actually allowing it to actually be valued and owned is kind of a complete fundamental shift, but it's going to be important for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the other points that come to mind is, in general, art is something that is more valued as you after someone die posthumously. Most times, it's after the person dies and people start to look back at their body of work and the relevance of it and the impact. That's when the value goes up. But again, without the blockchain, then you're in a bit of a yes, you can have your estate and you can have your lawyers work out stuff, but that can always be disputed, and other people might come up and say, oh, we have this stake in it. When you put that kind of context to the blockchain, for me, it means I feel way more secure about the generational wealth that can be passed on, because it means that my 4 kids, I can make sure that that 20% I make on every one of those sales that go on even after I pass, the value of that 20% goes back to my estate and goes back to my children. And I think you don't really have it in the situation that Trevor described. You create a painting, you sell it for 1,000, somebody sell it back for 1,000,000. You don't make any money on it. You pass away, it sell for 10 million. Like the people who created, I don't know the painters, but whoever the Picasso and the people who do Mona Lisa and all that, their family, their estate, I don't know if they're getting anything off of these constant resales. Maybe based on how popular they are now, they had to fight to claim their part in it. But blockchain would make it seamless, transparent, and make the creators and the beneficiaries of the creators have a much stronger foot to stand on, to say. And also the community, so the community will feel better. A lot of times in the early part of this year, one of the main reasons why you saw the NFT rising was there are a lot of artists who are upcoming, have a huge potential. Fans want to support them, but fans don't want to spend that money on Spotify because that money is not going to get back to the artist. They don't want to spend that money on just buying an album because 90% of that goes to the label. So how do I support the next artist that's coming up that I'm a huge fan of? By buying in the NFT, you know that value that you have invested in, that amount that you have put in goes directly to the artist that you want to support to rise. And also, in a bit of a sense, it's like a stock exchange where you know that the artist has this token and this NFT that is an asset tied to them, and it's gonna go up in value as that artist becomes more popular. It's gonna go up in value. If that artist was, I don't know, having 5,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and 5,000 people viewing their stuff on YouTube, and I don't know, 5,000 Instagram followers, but you know that this person is going to hit 1,000,000. There's so many people who are 1,000,000 followers now that were, 1,000 3 years ago. If you know that potential and you buy into that NFT, technically that value is going to go up, because now when you're ready to cash out and say, okay, I'm ready to sell this, like a Tory Lanez, if you decide to sell that tomorrow, the value is going to be higher on it because of how relevant he is now, how popular he is now. So Eminem did a drop a few months ago, and I was like a 14-year-old fan. I was, lining up a half hour before trying to get one of his NFTs because I'm a huge Eminem fan, and I believe as time goes by, it's gonna be more valuable. And if I can pass that to my children, that's just as valuable as passing some other inheritance, So the value of it is undeniable. It's relative, like Trevor said, it's relative to the collector, but in general, pop culture and thing, you can know that it may go up as time goes by, and it's worth the investment if you have that disposable income. The last thing I want to say though is that a lot of it is expensive now because it's on Ethereum. There are other blockchain technologies that NFTs are sitting on that are much cheaper in what we call gas fees, the transactional fees. That's gonna really democratize NFTs a little more and make it more accessible to a wider general public in the future. So guys, if you say NFT now, and I might to myself in the leg because I'm selling one Ethereum and it's worth, I don't know, 2,000 much. I don't know where Ethereum is now. You might say, oh, Base is crazy. You might expect me to buy something for $2,000. But in the future, you might see another NFT come out and it's for the equivalent of, I don't know, $100 or $50 because it's sitting on a different blockchain that makes it more affordable. So you will see that kind of change as well as time goes by, and it will become probably cheaper and more accessible. But whichever one you sit on, you also have to look at it from the flip. So by buying it in Ethereum, then you're going to be selling it back in Ethereum in the future. And if you believe that Ethereum is always going to be that valuable cryptocurrency beside Bitcoin, then you might say, okay, let me hold the value of this asset in Ethereum. So there are some things to think about. And there's also people who offer like a credit card solution on top of it. So if you're into crypto, but you want to buy NFT, you go with the card and you buy it like that. So there's also that for people who might be interested but don't have any familiarity with crypto. The spaces are so emerging, evolving, new and exciting that I would just encourage everyone to throw your questions here. But after this, do your research, and it's definitely interesting and worth the interest, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect time to segue into some of the questions that we got already. Because, as you said, I think it's important to understand some of the practical aspects. So just let me read some of the questions that we got so far. Damien is asking, for someone new in the NFT space and as a photographer, which blockchain would you all recommend? So that's question number one. We have another question from an anonymous LinkedIn user. I'm sold on the value creation of NFT and the legitimacy of NFTs. I'm also sold on the fact that it is not a hype, but it is the future. Please provide the steps for a newcomer and regular Jane Joan to do the following. Question number one, buy an NFT product. Question number two, create an NFT, and then 3, track NFT sales and products. I think these are very good questions because I think for a lot of people, me included, it's often still a big question mark. How do I actually tap into the space? So I think the 3 questions are here. What is the recommended blockchain or maybe blockchains to create and mint NFTs? Where can I buy them? Where can I sell them? And what else do we need to know? And I just throw the question on you guys.
So, and I think perhaps the best person to answer the NFT newcomer question might be Base or Stefan, because and here's why I think so. One is a creator and one is a collector, right? And you kind of have to look at this from 2 angles. How do I get NFTs as a collector, and how do I create NFTs as a creative, right? Just before that though, I just kind of wanted to point to something that everyone who is looking to jump into this space needs to be cognizant of. Everything that exists in this space is in the digital form. All right. Any digital asset, because now you have to look at things in terms of them being digital assets. Any digital asset, even a Word document, right, can be NFT'd, right? One of the things you want to be mindful of when you're going into these spaces, which is why, you know, Basie and Stefan and myself will always say, do your homework, do some research, is where you go about getting NFTs, because not all NFT spaces or marketplaces are, say, created equal. So one of the things I just want to put out there before, you know, these guys come and tell you their experience and how it's done, is that always do the homework about the NFT marketplace that you're going to go to either mint or purchase your NFTs. There are a lot of NFT marketplaces out there. Some of them are known and reputable. Some of them not so much. Quite recently, an employee at OMC, he wasn't the CEO. It was an employee there. You know, was
sorry, my bad. I thought it was the CEO. One of the
was raked over the coals because they did insider trading because of things they knew were coming and so on. Again, one of the cool things about the technology is that when things like that happen, somebody's gonna know, right? So just before you know, you jump into this space, do some homework, do some research, ask questions, find people who have done this before, and ask, you know, how to do stuff, and then go into it, because, you know, there are a lot of potential scams out there. And I mean, I'm fiercely protective of the space, right? So it's important to make people aware, so that, you know, if you do something right, leave a bad taste in your mouth, you understand that, okay, these things can happen. Maybe I need to be a little bit more careful next time. But do your homework, research the different marketplaces before you decide to go and drop some hard-earned money on some collectibles. With that said, Stefan, Basie.
Feel free to go first, Stefan.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the first thing before we can even talk about NFTs is obviously one of the biggest challenge in the Caribbean in general for all of our countries is that, you know, getting access to crypto itself can be very difficult. So even then, it's like, okay, the first question is, do you have access to any of these cryptos? And there are a few NFT sites that, like y'all said, that you can use a credit card for, but that's not the majority. So being in the space and getting into the ecosystem is probably the most important thing. So, and I can't even really answer that question, because it kind of depends on it's usually a, you know, case by case basis, because sometimes you can buy crypto on an exchange, which is how most people do it. But again, here, usually our banks sometimes block it. So it's hit or miss, and it's case by case. So, and there are also, you know, not many, but once in a while you can find maybe a physical ATM, a crypto ATM or Bitcoin ATM, which will have Ethereum and some other coins on it. So that's the first part, just getting into the ecosystem. And once you get there, then you can go on to pretty much any open site. So there's a website called OpenSea, which is basically the eBay for NFTs. It has a wide range of pretty much anything. Rarible is actually where I started. They're a bit more art focused, and you can basically, the user experience is pretty good, and you can basically look and find. To be honest, a lot of it is basically just going on and looking for what you like. And at the end of the day, don't say, okay, which of these NFTs will make me money? Just go on and say, what do I like? What looks interesting to me? What looks good to me? And stick with that. That's the best way to do it by far. And this is obviously coming from the collector side, but once you kind of get onto the system and kind of figure it out, the minting process is not particularly difficult. The hardest thing is really just once you have access to crypto, making sure you have your wallet set up. And I would say definitely you check out Rainbow Wallet, which is actually, I would say, the best user experience for an Ethereum wallet right now. And this is, of course, if you're using Ethereum. There are other blockchains that you can check out. Like Tezos has a marketplace that people really like, and you can find very good prices for it. It's unfortunately it's a bit harder. The user experience is not great, but it does have a very low key feeling to it. But if you stick to Ethereum, where I would say most people are, you basically just get a wallet, make sure you have gas, which is basically just a transaction fee, which is how blockchains run. And I think just to kind of add to that, obviously Ethereum transaction prices can be a bit high because there's a lot of use and there's a lot of demand on that network. So I think one thing we need in general, but specifically in the Caribbean, is things like mint funds. So a good friend of mine created it's basically called the Mint Fund, which allows people to donate to this fund, and they distribute small amounts of Ethereum to artists who want to mint for the first time, who want to just get on the ecosystem so they can pay the gas they need to. So I definitely think we need more of those. I know someone else, his name is Wyatt Gallery. He's in Trinidad, I believe. He's trying to create a Caribbean mint fund. So I think once we can build those and support those, it will make it easier for anyone who's new to get into the ecosystem, be able to pay the transaction fees they need to pay, and start from there. But I'll let Bay answer the rest of that.
I kind of dropped off a minute. Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys hear me clearly.
Yeah, man, we're hearing you.
Yeah. Can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So I missed some of that, Stefan, but I heard majority of it. My only 2 cents I'd add to it is, all right. So from a creative, because I assume the question was a bit from a creative standpoint. Like, if I'm a creator, how do I get play in the game? And what Stefan said is
bring up the question
is
here.
right on point. Like, it depends on what you're going for, but the overall general process is getting some Ethereum or whatever currency you want, getting some and getting it into a wallet. So you want to create a wallet. I know you mentioned Rainbow. I've never tried that one. MetaMask is the one that I use. But you want to get some money into a wallet, because wallet is that NFT, as well as where you purchase and also mint your NFT. So your funding, your capital will be there, as well as your assets. And once you have created that wallet, for me, I have used Rarible. I was able to create my own token, a basic coin, and I was able to. I don't know. It's not that hard, but I cannot say that I was able to do it on my own. I had a very good partner of mine from a company called CarryCoin. Shout out to Karsten, and he helped me set up. I actually made some mistakes first, and I had to burn some NFTs. So if you have a good partner, it helps you to save money and not lose money. But yeah, I had those, and it costs you to burn it as well. It costs you to make it, and it costs you to burn it. So you want to be as informed before you go into that space. But yeah, you
take your wallet, you create your coin if you want, or you can build it on a rareable coin, the rareable token, and you mint it and you upload it. I think that part is not so hard. The real hard part is coordinate. It's like more from a marketing standpoint, is to create that buzz so that the drop, well, you have to, sorry, vehicles passing, I'm gonna just mute. Yeah, sorry about that. So you have to make sure you know what you're offering. It's not just to have a piece of art, but make sure the smart contract fully is thought out so that you have, because this is a permanent contract, right? So for example, as an artist, I recommend that you make it explicitly clear that your rights, the master rights and the publishing rights, are not assigned to the owner of the NFT. If you're going to do that, then the NFT needs to be way more, because you're talking about giving away your rights. You have to make sure you clearly. I know NBC did one called What is an NFT, and they did it from a skit that they did, not NBC, Saturday Night Live, but they made sure tell you in the smart contract, like, you don't own this. This is still owned by Saturday Night Live, but you own a copy of this video. And that's important to make sure you don't give away your rights and you don't make it like this gray area of not having clarity. Once you decide what that contract looks like, what the artwork is, and then you decide you're gonna make a drop. Now, what people like to do what is called a drop, meaning they create this buzz around a specific time that's gonna release, and it may be released for a limited time. You have the ability to do, you have the choice to do that, or you might want to just put it out forever, and people can buy whenever they feel like. Of course, it's a game of demand and supply, so the limited time that is available as supply, it should raise your demand level. And you release that at a specific time. Now, if you're doing a drop, you probably want to announce it a few weeks before, and you have a countdown going so people can line up. It's the same thing, as I said, was my experience with Eminem's NFT, where I was literally checking back the thing at the specific hour to see if it was available. If you take a step back and think about art galleries and when they're doing a showing, it's a similar concept where if an art gallery has something on display forever, you might come and look, oh, I'll decide next week, oh, I'll come and decide next week. But if you know it's available for a limited time, like an auction, people will, gather their money for this auction, look at what's being offered, and come to the auction prepared to spend at least a certain amount on something that they're interested in. So you kind of have to put your mind in that space if you're doing a limited time release drop. And then the game is really much from there, just trying to engage the customers or the clients. You want to do it, you have a lot of, like Stefan said, the most activity and awareness around this is on Twitter. I had not been on Twitter for maybe 10 years. And once I decided to do my NFT earlier this year, I had to start back the page and get engaged, because that's where people live, I know there's also, I think, Discord and Telegram and some others, but I'm not playing in that space. But I think once you're in Twitter and maybe LinkedIn and some other things, you should be fine. Instagram is very, very behind so far. And I think because Instagram is more about the visual of it, you don't have as much information passing as quickly as in Twitter. So yeah, you want to promote it on that platform. You want to create a community. You want to, I would suggest, partner with other NFT providers. So if I am an artist and I know this person is a photographer, like the person who asked the question, I might go to him and say, hey, let's collaborate on a limited release, so that he's leveraging or she's leveraging my community and I'm leveraging theirs, and we're building together. You see a lot of that happening in the NFT space. And I would say in general, no matter how engaged people are with you as a musician, it's a different level of engagement when it's NFT. People are really passionate about this, and people really, once they see that you're playing that space, strangers start to follow you, strangers reach out, hey, I'm in India, I'm in Indonesia, I'm doing this, do we want to collaborate? You have to, of course, be aware that some of it may be scam, so you don't want to just jump on everything, but there are way more opportunities in that space. Once you put an NFT to your brand, it magnifies or amplifies your reach. So that's kind of like, I think I'm jumping through questions. So, to buy it, that's a process. You go to OpenSea or Rarible or one of these places. Nifty Gateway is one that allows you to buy with credit cards. I know that one. I think there's one called Top Shelf or something like that does the NBA cards. I think those you can, anything that's built on the Flow blockchain, I think will have some additional functionality for cross purchase between fiat and crypto. So that's the buying part. I just went through the uploading as a creative, and then the easiest thing is, I think the third question was how to keep a track. That's the easiest part, because blockchain is fully, you can look at the ledger and you can see who bought what when, and even when I say I'm the first reggae dancer NFT, if someone wants to dispute it, let's look at the ledger, because I know when mine was launched. If you have some that show that it was launched before April of this year, then I concede and you're the first. But as far as I know, I was looking through the space. I didn't say any. I launched mine just to be a mad scientist that experiment on himself. I just want to put out something. And the ledger shows how it has been going since. So if you are creating it, you don't have to worry about whether you're creating or you're a collector. You don't have to worry about wondering what the track history has been. It's very clear from the ledger within the blockchain, and it's on that site. When you go on OpenSea or any one of them, you can look down and see the ledger. I think that is the functionality as the owner. I don't know if the collector can do it too, but Stefan and Trevor can correct me on that part. But yes, it's basically not something hard to do. There are a lot of steps, but if you're passionate about it, I would say start to do research, find partners and friends and network that know the space, and just dive into it.
Yeah, I think to kind of like summarize it really quickly, regardless of whether you're a collector or a creative or creator, a couple of things you're always going to need to have. You're going to need to have a wallet. Wallets come in various forms. You can have, software wallets like MetaMask and those. Rainbow, I have to check into Rainbow. I haven't used that one yet either. You can also, there are many wallets out there. So you have software wallets, so MetaMask, Rainbow, and so on. You also have hardware wallets, because in having a wallet, that is where you actually store the funds that you're going to use to either create or purchase the assets, right? So you need a wallet. The next thing you'll need is you'll need to know where to go to create or buy, and that's the marketplace. So Rarible, OpenSea, and then those, there are quite a number of marketplaces out there that you can go to. There's another one that I can't remember the name. Axe Infinity, I think it's Axe Infinity. I think that's the name of it.
Axe Infinity.
Yeah, that's it. Right. That's another one that's out there. So you need to know the marketplace. Now, when you go there to buy, you have to have the money. When you go there to create, to mint, you have to have the funds. You can mint and you can destroy, which is the burning that Basie is talking about. As a creator, as someone who purchases, you can purchase and then sell. Now, the key thing, which is what I was alluding to at the beginning, when you come into this space, management of your stuff is all on you, right? Understand, and this is from the creative standpoint, management of your stuff is on you, right? So the stipulations in the smart contracts for royalties and everything, that's on you. So you have to understand, because a lot of times people don't want the responsibility for managing themselves. Then them costs when them find out, say, I'm on thief them money, I'm gone with them things. In this space, it's all on you. All right. So as an artist now, you're going to take more responsibility for your creations, so that when you create that particular NFT and you say within the smart contract that whenever this thing is sold, if I'm selling it for 1 ETH, and I'm supposed to get 10% off of it whenever it is resold as royalties or whatever. Understand that once that's baked in, it's on you. You can change, you do have the opportunity to change the price of what you've created, but remember that you need to understand how the royalties work, who owns what, when it changes hands, and how all of that works, because again, the stuff that you used to divorce yourself from when record companies or management did, gone. This is all on you. So, but the good thing about it is once you bake in that stuff, it's almost like set it and forget it, because all you have to do, much like what you try to do when ASCAP and BMI is trying to go to a road and figure out who play your music to send you back royalties. The funny thing about that is you trust them to come back with accurate numbers. And you have no clue, really and truly, if what they're saying you made is really what you made, right? With this space, it's irrefutable because you see it, because you establish the tracking mechanism, you establish the royalties, and everything is there on the blockchain for all to see. So it's not like you have to wonder if ASCAP or BMI or SESAC or any one of them actually giving you what you do. You're getting what you do, and you can see where your stuff went. So part of that responsibility is key. So wallet, marketplace, the thing you want to create, mint it, and then watch it go. In fact, I just upgraded my wallet. I just went and got a hardware wallet. So I'm gonna test this thing out with a couple exchanges, but it is something that you always want to keep in mind, that when you are going to play in this space, you have to have the funds, and the funds again are your responsibility, because when you lose them, they're gone, right? There's no deposit insurance or any insurance of that nature that you can call on. So it's very important to do your homework, be very careful, and start off small, all right? And then as you get used to it and know more, then you start to press gas, no pun intended.
Yeah, let me jump in some of the comments here real quick. Comment on YouTube: OpenSea insider trading is still under investigation, but it is alleged it was the head of product, their CTO. So for me as a financial guy, that's nothing new. Just real quick, what is insider trading? Basically, the person knew before which NFTs are dropping on the marketplace as special sales or whatever, and bought it before they went public. And then of course they went public, the prices rose, and then the person, or maybe multiple persons, again we don't know really at that point in time, the whole volume of the scandal, and but that's the current situation. And I think Marcia's comment kind of ties into that. I think generally speaking, make sure to educate yourself when you go into the NFT space, crypto space, blockchain space in general, because as Trevor said, once the funds or once the money is gone, it's gone. There's no insurance, there's no bringing it back. And there are also some players that don't necessarily have your best interest in mind. Damian was saying, sorry, and let me just finish that because the comments piling up. I want to make sure to get to everybody. Damian saying, great information, guys. I hope it is helpful. If that content, if the answers help you guys, please hit the like button, share it with someone you think can benefit from it. That really helps us. Feel also free to connect with everybody on the panel on LinkedIn for more information. I think that's generally speaking a good way to build a network, build a community, and learn more about the space. Then Jordan is mentioning some of the marketplaces that you can go to and have a look to: OpenSea.io, Rarible.com, Solanart.io, Foundation, Axis Marketplace, and hashtag CryptoPunks. Yeah, definitely. If you have a CryptoPunk right now, you're one of the lucky ones. And Joey is mentioning a website where you can check the current gas price on the different marketplaces and blockchains. So really quick, what is the gas price? The gas price is basically the fee that you pay for minting, selling transactions, generally speaking, on the blockchain. I think some people minting their NFTs on the weekend because there's less traffic and therefore it's a little cheaper. But that's a place where you can go to can get up-to-date information. And Jax is asking, are there recommended sources to check out when looking to educate yourself about NFTs and crypto? So probably, as we mentioned before, Twitter is probably the network or the space where you want to be to stay up to date. But maybe you guys can give some recommendations where to go to if you really want to dive into or learn more about the NFT and crypto space.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go back to the OpenSea issue. And Trevor and I talked about this a little bit. And yeah, they're still investigating, but it's pretty much confirmed that it was their head of product. But this whole instance also shows the beauty of blockchain technology, because the person who basically outed the OpenSea employee, the person who found that out to begin with, was not a regulator. They were not a government agent. They were not some kind of someone in Securities Commission. It was a regular individual. It was a regular user, someone who just knew how to look at transaction on the blockchain, look at the block explorer, as they're called, and was able to track and say, oh, wait a minute, this person with the wallet that's connected to this OpenSea employee, this individual, is buying things beforehand, and they were able to completely track, completely verify that this person was doing that. So the fact that this technology allows us to, and of course, not to say that regulations aren't necessary, but it basically creates I'm just trying to make sure I say this the right way. The regulation is built in, is the best way to put it. If the regulation is part of the technology itself, it's built into it, meaning that anyone in the world can go into it, access it, verify the transactions, look and say, okay, this is right or this is not right. This is what's happening. And that information is the same for everybody. Nobody can go in and change that. Nobody can go in and hide it or anything like that. So just the fact that we now have verification, authentication, all wrapped into this technology is such a new idea, really, which is the essence of decentralization, meaning that we don't have to wait or rely on these particular agencies or agents. We can do this ourselves. We can push, we can push the authentication ourselves. We can push the verification ourselves. Anyone can go in and do it, which is very powerful, in my opinion.
I think that's definitely the beauty of the tension. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, blockchain technology is self-auditing by nature, and it lends itself to almost seamless self-regulation or regulation by, or new term, crowd regulation, right? So everybody can see, and then you're regulating via the masses, right? Which is almost a fiercely democratic way of regulation. So it's something to again, that highlights the capabilities of what blockchain can do when it talks about enlisting and engendering trust. Especially when you don't trust anything. So there was one question about places that you can go. I find there's this guy on YouTube. I find some of his talks rather interesting, but very informative on Coin Bureau. Dude is hilarious, but he does give some very good information. So if you want to check out some stuff about different crypto and from time to time there are NFT discussions. Coin Bureau, you'll search for them. It gives some good info there. There are a lot of sources on social media, Twitter, and also YouTube that you can go to. I just find Coin Bureau entertaining and informative. So it's one place you can go check.
Yeah, Rita is also asking, is there a resource I can reach out to in order to educate myself? Just as a general note here, I think there are not so much resources out there yet because it's just such a new technology and new field. So make sure or be aware of where you get your information on. As a general note, I would probably stay away a little bit, or at least be very skeptical about everything that is too much into trading and making a quick buck out of any course movements or anything like that, because I think it's important to understand the underlying principles, the technology itself, and so on before you get into someone that wants to sell you something to make a quick buck. So just be aware when it comes to that.
And any one of us, I'm sure, would be willing to help to, build awareness. So I mean, again, we're all on LinkedIn, so can reach out that way.
Find me on Twitter,
always
for sure.
To do that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Much easier to reach on Twitter than LinkedIn.
Yeah.
but there are some resources. Actually, OpenSea came out with. Sorry, it's called the OpenSea Bible. Actually, sorry, the NFT Bible. Actually, it's a vast document that's full of great resources. It explains a lot in depth. So definitely check that out.
So we can find that on the OpenSea website. Is that correct?
It should be. If you Google NFT Bible OpenSea, it'll definitely come up.
Okay. We also have a comment. Let's just say that all of the transactions can be tracked and with KYC, big brother, ? I think that's some important thing to understand, which especially I think in the beginning of blockchain, a lot of people misunderstood, like, oh, it's an anonymous, I don't know how to pronounce that, but technology or platform, and that's actually exactly the opposite, because every transaction, everything is tracked, is written down in the ledger and can be looked up, and that's, I think, the beauty of the whole system, that it is transparent and that it is decentralized.
You see, just to be clear on something, because a lot of times when people are talking about, oh, what can be tracked and Big Brother's watching and all that. So let's be clear on a couple of things. Regardless of what you do, somebody know who you sent money to, where the money went, what you did. That occurs in fiat, and it will continue to occur because that's just the nature of things. It's just that it happens way more efficiently and a lot faster with some of these. But something you need to understand, if you go and look at the Bitcoin ledger right now, you don't see the names of the people who did the transactions. What you see is the transactions and the source and destination. But you won't see my name. You won't see Basie name. You won't see Stefan's name. You won't see Simon's name. What you see is a record of the transaction. A lot of times, you, and it's not to say that with sufficient work, the name behind the origin, because really it's a wallet address or ID that you're moving currency between. But when you go on there, you don't see the names of the people. There are some blockchains and that don't even facilitate with work the ability to find information. But you kind of have to understand that there are a lot of factors that come into play that to a certain degree require knowledge of source and destination and transactions, right? And we all know what those are. It doesn't become real until the effects of it reaches your doorstep. Then you start to ask, why was this not done? But you kind of have to appreciate the fact that there is a place for the tracking. What you have to look at is how it is used. Because what you don't want is, tracking to be done in a willy-nilly way where, an idle person decides that they want to go and find out what their friend's cousin's wife's daughter is doing, right? What you want to ensure is that there is a means when necessary, but it cannot be used unless it is justified. And even then, you will know, right? And that's the thing about this technology. It's the level of transparency tied to the level of auditability. That if somebody tries to do something they're not supposed to do, somebody will know, including you, right? Which is why, again, what happened at OpenSea, it happened, but somebody knew. If you're paying attention, you're going to know. So, Big Brother may not be the Big Brother you think it is. Big Brother is everybody, because everybody can see, right? So, so it is something, again, just to be aware of that. The Big Brother fear, uncertainty, doubt argument. It has its place, but it's not something that all the time may or should be viewed as a deterrent to using this kind of stuff or technology. It's always been happening before you and I born. So now it's just a little bit more out in the open.
Yeah, nothing new. History just repeats itself, unfortunately. Maybe we can dive a little bit into other use cases besides from collectibles and art. I think, Rashan, you touched on something that I found very interesting, meaning, I think, Stefan, you also like things like IP, intellectual property, or the master rights to maybe a song. I saw, I think Snoop Dogg sold some NFTs to some exclusive after parties, so you can also use it for ticketing systems, things of that nature. We talked about real estate, that you maybe can tokenize that way, maybe voting rights. I don't know, do you guys see any progress in that space, or maybe already any practical example, or are most of these things still brain exercises?
Well, I can take a stab at that. So the first thing I noticed a few months ago is that it is revolutionizing ticketing, as you mentioned. So if you're a fan of if you're trying to get season tickets for, I don't know, the Bulls or the Lakers, once that is published, the person or the team owner, once they sell those first tickets, people buy it and then normally resell it for crazy marked up prices, right? Without that NFT space, you sell a season ticket for, I don't know what it goes for, let's say $1,000, and then people resell it for 10,000, but the original person doesn't get back any money on that 9,000 that's added to it. But if you sell that season ticket as an NFT, then every time that it's marked up and traded, you make some money on that. So that's something that I see team owners playing with already in NFL and NBA. I think it's something that we should be doing a lot more in the music space as well, festivals, that kind of stuff. In the case of IP, I think this is where a lot of disputes will be and a lot of clarity will be needed, because many people may know about the whole Dame Dash situation, where Dame was trying to sell 1/3 his stake in the Rockefeller Empire, particularly as it relates to the Reasonable Doubt album by Jay-Z. He owns 1/3 of it. He wants to sell his rights as an NFT. People will go crazy to buy 1/3 of Jay-Z's debut album rights and everything. And he was selling the rights, not just the audio. Jay-Z doesn't want any random person to have rights, ownership of 1/3 of his rights. So he tried to block it. It was at the court. I think no, and Dame is allowed to sell it. I haven't been up to date with it, so I don't know if it has been sold. But there's that kind of clarity that's needed. A similar thing happened with Tribe Called Quest, where when they're doing a record, and just be clear, if I can take a step back, if I am doing a song and I got one line from my brethren in the entire song, I have the responsibility of putting him as a co-writer on it, because you don't know if that one line is the line that made the record. When that person who is probably not in the music, but he has this thing, 10 years later realize, I have this right, I don't use it, let me sell it. He has the right to sell that. And that's what will happen in the case of publishing. It's not only the active writer, but even the passive people who have received rights from whatever reason, inherited it or was passed to them. If they decide to sell their NFT, it becomes a little contentious, because me as the main artist might not want to have some of the rights of my song sold to some random person. There's not much you can do to stop it. But if there's not clarity, then you're gonna have disputes. And let's be clear, the smart contracts and the contracts within the digital space of NFTs are relatable to physical contracts and physical artists and physical people. So there has to be some form of alignment. You can't have a NFT that totally is illegal compared. Illegal mean illegality is in brackets, but totally contradicts what you have as a physical contract. Then you're gonna have some dispute somewhere along the line. So the IP situation is still developing. As I mentioned, when I sold my NFT, I made sure to clearly state that I'm selling the audio and the visual, but not the rights that come with it. And there were some people that were potentially ready to buy it, but said, no, I want to buy it with the rights, because for me, there are purists in the NFT space who believe that by virtue of what NFT is supposed to be, it's supposed to be outside of the physical system. And so those folks want to know that anything they're buying, they get all rights with it. But, as a creative, I can tell you, I think it's best to control and manage that part of the process. So IP is something that's still developing, ticketing, and there are other things, but those are the ones for me in the creative space that really jump out at me. Access, unlocking access, unlocking some benefit. And another thing that comes in my mind, it's a little left field, but as I'm talking, I'm thinking, when someone sells the NFT, you get a percentage as a creator, right? No matter what. But how does it work when it's traded, when it's exchanged instead of sold? At that point, there's no value that's exchanged more than the other NFT for one. So like how people traded cards in the physical space. So that's something that needs to be clarified. Do we need to put something in the contract that says if it's traded, then this additional benefit there, but if it's sold, then the benefit is there? I don't know how that works. But for me, if I create an NFT and it says it gives you 50% off of a dub plate, I don't want that person to give it away and I'm still expected to give them 50%. I would want to know that it is unlockable with some exchange of value. So there are things that even myself I'm not clear on, and things that can be designed in your smart contract, but you have to make sure you think it through clearly as to what you want to do.
Yeah, if I could kind of add part of clarity to that. So what basically is talking about there has to do with really know the value behind smart contracts and programmable assets, because what you're able to do is, in considering all of these scenarios and eventualities, you can build that sort of stuff into your smart contract, which is why it's so interesting, because every time I'm talking about blockchain and lawyers are in the room, they always start to get a little uneasy, because they're saying, well, the smart contracts mean that lawyers will will be out of work. I'm like, no, because understand, smart contracts are code, but the code has to conform with what we expect to transpire in the real world, which is what the traditional contract tends to stipulate. So the thing about it is in creating smart contracts, you still have to have some sort of interface with the legal people, because the code dictates what happens in the real world expectation of that transaction. So in a situation where you're talking about trading is a transaction. And if it is a transaction that has to be validated and verified, that means there is a touch point somewhere. Then within a smart contract, a trading operation can trigger a particular set of rules and so on. But again, you have to look at, because if you think about it, NBA does and MLS, MLB, baseball guys, the football guys, they do card trading, right? So they have football cards, they have baseball cards, basketball cards, that kind of stuff. What they do now is they trade, that's what they term it as. They trade cards, but there is monetary value between one guy who says, you know what, you have a card I want, I have a card you want, I'll trade it for you. There's no monetary exchange in it. They're just trading the cards, because the value to me for his card is equivalent of the value my card holds to him. That's not a monetary, that's bartering, right? But it is a transaction that has value. Now, when you move that into the digital space, and you say, look, this thing that you have is of value to me, because right now the creator is nowhere in that transaction, right? So this thing has value for me of this amount, and something else has value for you of this amount, and so on. Regardless of what happens, the creator must see a benefit from that value exchange. And that's embedded in smart contract, and that's code. So once a trade operation occurs, it is a transaction that is tracked and that's written to the chain. Then within the smart contract, a particular thing can be generated from it. So that's how that kind of stuff can be managed. But you're right, you say you have to think this stuff through from the beginning, because one of the challenges with certain types of blockchains and certain types of smart contracts is when you create that smart contract, you can't change it. Right? And that's a challenge that is being worked on now, but once you create that smart contract, it's very difficult for you to contemplate changing it, because of the nature of the space that you're working in. So it does require some thought. Get the advice, understand what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, not only now but in the future. And Simon, I think we're going to do the same thing again in this talk. I have a hard stop, by the way, but we're going to do the same thing again, it seems.
Probably. Yeah, go ahead. But Stefan, you wanted to say something about other use cases, I think.
Yeah, this is kind of abstract, but there is. So for folks who know, you may have heard. Well, I don't know how big it is yet, but let's start with the idea of you have an NFT. Obviously, this won't be the norm, but there are obviously quite a bit, for example, that are very high priced, like CryptoPunks, for example. So there's the idea of fractionalizing them, fractionalization of NFTs into smaller parts, basically, so that there's not just one owner. So now you have a much larger number of potential owners, people who have the ownership of a piece of this CryptoPunk or a piece of this NFT. And there's another basically technology. So that's called fractional. there are a few, but fractional is probably the biggest one that people are using to fractionalize these NFTs. And there's another technology built on top of that, like it's called PartyBid. And what PartyBid does is it uses fractional technology to create basically a whole social event around the fractionalization of an NFT. So actually, what a few weeks ago, what a good friend of mine started and I helped with, and quite a few of us helped with, was the fractionalization of 2 of the black CryptoPunks. So this basically was because if you look at the ownership and the prices and whatnot of all the CryptoPunks, and this is for multiple various reasons, but overall the black CryptoPunks were of the lowest value, which kind of represents how the space is right now. So what we decided to do was, okay, we said, well, we're going to, and it was definitely a long process because we had to get someone who had a black CryptoPunk to offer it. But we got a large number of people, I think it was about maybe 500, maybe a little less than that, to come together and bid to get fractional pieces of 2 of these CryptoPunks. And that both were a success. We were able to get it. So now a large number of us, mostly black people, own a small part of these CryptoPunks, which kind of, again, just allows a lot. Well, one, increases the value overall of the NFT, but also it just allows a large number of people who would not have been able to get one of the high-priced CryptoPunks just to own a small part of it. And it allows you to, there's no minimum, so you can put in as little money as you want. You can put $50 if you want. So I definitely think we're going to see a lot more of that happening, especially if prices continue to go up. Just that idea of a community coming together to bid on something, to own something collectively, which I think has really been missing in the space before, because it's always been about individual ownership, which is great, which is important. But this idea of community ownership and collective ownership is, in my opinion, vastly more important, because we're in the space together. Basically, we have to interact together and grow together and build together. And that's really the only way we can go forward, especially as Caribbean people, because we've always, we live in systems where, whether it's insiders or outsiders, we've been, frankly speaking, we've been pushed down in a lot of ways. And this is one of the ways that we can build ourselves up and rise up without having to worry about, other countries, without having to worry about other communities. We can build our own community and come up ourselves. And going back to the fractionalization, I definitely think that while most of it right now is just being used to fractionalize art pieces or fractionalize collectibles, we will almost undoubtedly see the same thing happening for real estate, even companies, where someone can launch maybe a party bid for a company and have the entire community come together and bid on pieces of this company. So or pieces of real estate. So now that ownership is spread out, and we all can kind of democratically engage in governance, engage in design, engage in these systems, and not to go too deep, but we could also mention Daos, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. And what you can do is, from the fractionalized pieces, you can form a community, you can form a DAO that is governed by these tokens or governed by these fractional pieces, and that can be used to vote, that can be used to trade, share, whatever you want to do. So that I won't go too deep, but there's a lot that's going to be built on top of all of this.
Well, I think that's a very interesting use case because, sorry, as I said early on, I think one of the areas, and when you're talking about fractionalization, I think that goes probably in the same direction, is things like voting rights. For example, when you own shares, you buy a share of a company, as you said, you buy a fraction of a company or stock. and now you have the right to vote how the company is going, or you own a certain part of the company. So, but how would that work in an easy way? Let's say after this live stream is over, I say, hey, I want to make an NFT out of that. I take the MP4 file and I want to split it up between all the participants, between us 4 people. So I need my wallet, I take my Coinbase account, I need a marketplace like OpenSea or whatever I want to use. How would I, let's call it fractionize it then and distribute it to the other 3 participants in that hypothetical scenario?
I think that was for Stefan.
For everybody that feels qualified to answer the question.
No, I mean, well, the fractionalization part is still fairly new. I would say it's not entirely mainstream, like just, you know, basic creation of NFTs, but what it represents, you see, the challenge that, okay, so and there's so much to unpack here, right? When you look at kind of what happened when I look at what happened when blockchain, you know, came to prominence with Bitcoin, and people are saying, you know, this is the new thing, and the background behind blockchain technology and the concepts of algorithm that were working, and in this case it was proof of work. What happened there was, if you couldn't participate in mining if you didn't have, or it didn't make sense for you to participate in mining if you didn't have enough processing power that required energy to start to churn away at this, you know, proof of work problem that is the underpinning of the Bitcoin blockchain network, right? Because if you're in a country that, you know, electricity costs are too high, you just couldn't participate, right? So yeah, the thing is decentralized and, you know, democratic, but not everybody could participate. Then you start talking about proof of stake, and, you know, that got rid of the issues with energy consumption and all that. But proof of stake says, well, you have to have a certain amount of stake to put into this ecosystem that allows you to then be able to participate in the decision-making process, right? Again, some say, well, if I don't have, you know, enough to stake, then I can't participate. Fairness, right? There's a fairness thing going on here, because again, you start to see that thing where he who has the goal make the rules, those who have more get to make the decisions and the calls and whatever. But at every step of the way, this was a reality that you know, participants in the space saw, and they were saying, look, we need to make things more fair. All right, so then now you have the situation where, you know, in the case that was outlined by Stefan with the CryptoPunks and so on, where is only one person could own that digital you know, version of a CryptoPunk, and there's a set number of them, right? So how do you know, you know, because, and again, if you don't have the money, you don't have a chance, right? This is even worse than lotto. So, but how do you now make it such that you could, and I'm going to steal somebody's term here, socialize wealth, right? How do you do that? And how do you make it so that more people can benefit and participate from this thing, as opposed to just the guy who got crazy loot? And that's where these things like fractionalization come in. So what you're seeing is a constant effort to make the space fairer and more equitable, because no matter how you slice it, you're always going to have somebody who have a bag of money burning a hole in their pocket, jumping on things before you can. All right. So what you're seeing is that evolution happening before your eyes, where fractionalization is again new, but is going to be something that's incorporated into this space really and truly to make things fair and more equitable, right? So and the thing is, you actually have to build that kind of stuff into the platforms that exist, which requires some work and some thought, because now you're building in new rules, and it gets to become challenging because you're building in new rules into a system that initially was meant to say, well, once I build this in, it can't change, right? So what you're seeing is a whole lot of work going on in being able to make the thing more flexible, because every time we take another step, we see people trying to, make the system resemble the unfairness that exists that we're trying to get away from. So then you have to make these adjustments in the technology, in the code and everything, to facilitate what we're trying to actually accomplish. So to answer your question, Simon, what happens is you'd have to see a new set of rules, a new set of way contracts are established and executed within that digital space that would say, okay, if Simon goes on to an NFT marketplace to mint a new NFT, he has to be provided with some choices that says, by the way, just like say, if Basie is doing it, by the way, I own this amount. There are some royalties that need to go to Stefan and Trevor and Simon and Basie, who play the guitar, whoever played drums, whoever played keyboard, whatever. And what happens is that entire work now has multiple people who may have contributed or may be part owners of that particular thing. But the whole idea is there needs to be an easy way for you to be able to almost check off a box that accomplishes magic in the back end, that then over the existence or the life of that NFT ensures that everybody gets their piece. Now, suppose you're adding somebody to that particular asset, but they don't even participate in that space, right now or currently, right? How do you ensure that, when they do, if they do, or if they decide to have their relative participate, that they will accrue the benefits based on what you ascribe to them when you did it? So there's a lot of stuff that you have to contemplate when you're doing that, but to present it to you, to make it an easy thing to do, there's a lot of extra work and magic that's happening in the background to make that happen, right? So it is new, but it is something that comes out of the fact that there's an effort to try to make the thing as fair and as equitable as possible, because every time a new thing comes up, somebody jumps in and tries to say, oh, let's try to maintain the status quo because I have more than you do. And I don't want you to get as much as I have, right? And that's why I think Stefan is alluding to, because one of the challenges we have is we don't like to work together to build. So being able to do that sometimes, almost culturally is a challenge. If you make it easier to do that, then it might actually start to happen more often. So there is some work, needed to make it happen in a seamless way, but it is happening, and that is where that kind of stuff is coming from.
Yeah, I think there probably needs to be more work done in the user friendliness, let's call it like that, so get easier access for a lot of people. And I think we can or probably will have another conversation in the future, because I think there's a lot more that we can talk about, but we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. And I know that we have other things to do. Everybody of us is kind of busy these days. So I want to give everybody the time to share the final thoughts, make a final statement, and then I think we're going to wrap it up for today. But nonetheless, everybody listening, we will probably repeat that in the future. So make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the content so far. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's usually the best place to stay up to date. And of course, make sure to connect with the panelists and with me on LinkedIn for further updates. And that being said, any final thoughts from you, gentlemen?
Well, since I have the mic on already, no, I think, like I said, the possibilities and prospects in the NFT space are I don't even think that we've contemplated all of them right now. The future is very exciting for it. Again, I just want to leave, and this is why again I say blockchain technology for me is just going forward, just something that is beyond fantastic. Again, just to leave everybody with, when you want to get into this NFT space, do your homework. There are people, on this call, there are resources out there that you can reach out to. And the wonderful thing about this space is everybody want to help everybody. So, feel free to reach out and do your homework before you go into the space. Because you see, even business ended up to burn some NFT and before and get it right. Try to minimize the instances of that by getting some advice and some help. But I think this thing has an extremely bright future. Upon the hype now, but it will become commonplace and definitely a way for people to enhance legacy and wealth over a sustained period of time.
Yeah, totally agree with that 100%. Trevor said it really well. This technology isn't going anywhere. It's just going to be used more and more every day, and it's going to be embedded more and more into our daily lives for sure. And I think NFTs for sure. But I would say what we call Web3 in general, which includes, obviously NFTs, but also DeFi and DAOs, which are these basically decentralized organizations, basically digital cooperatives. And all of these kind of ideas and primitives interact with each other and flesh together very well. So it's very important to just, again, do your research, which really just means keeping track and staying on top of what's actually happening in the space, because it moves very quickly. It changes every day. It evolves every day. But it's also, obviously, there's a learning curve. But I would say, honestly, if this space, this industry is one where you pretty much are rewarded just for participating, just for being involved. There's so many benefits just from paying attention. So I would say definitely do that. That's really a quick plug. If you are a university student or even university age student, please reach out to Caribbean Blockchain Alliance, because we're doing some education in the space as well. So check that out.
Thanks. I learned so much as well as sharing. I'm really, really intrigued about this fractionalizing of NFTs, because I think that is definitely, that community ownership is the way to go. For me, I guess the only plug is look out for the King Base collection coming out in October. And if you want more information, I'm always willing to share what I know. A few colleagues of mine and I believe that there would be value in a platform, a marketplace specifically around music and around Caribbean culture and African culture. So we are in the development stages of that. I'm sure we're not the only people in that space, but anyone who wants to collaborate, knock ideas, be a part of that development, including Trevor and Stefan, I'm throwing it out there. Feel free to let's knock heads after this. But it's an interesting space with NFTs. You have to have an appetite for risk, and you have to be willing to go out there and take the chances, make as much calculated and informed decisions. But it is emerging, and there's so many people who are knocking their heads now, like, yo, if I had got onto crypto and Bitcoin from 5 years ago, I would be so rich now. And of course, richness is not the only thing we're looking for, but just to be ahead of the curve and be early adopters also has its value. So I would encourage everyone to just, check out this YouTube link when it's out. Check out all of the different vlogs. There's a ton of information out there. Reach out to me, Trevor, Stefan, or Simon for more information as it relates to probably the context of Jamaican culture and Caribbean culture. And just thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we look forward to doing more knowledge transfer like this,
Yeah, thanks for... Sorry, Trevor, go ahead.
No, so I'm going to tell BSA how we need to reach out, My thing on BSA still not work with me.
No, don't do me that, Trevor. And me, I reach out to you, Trevor. And me, I reach out to you now,
Yeah, that's my shameless plug today.
All right. So you see, we not only learned something, we also have fun today. All right, everybody. If you still with us, thanks for staying so long, the whole 2 hours. I certainly learned something new today. I hope that is also true for you. If that's the case, again, make sure to leave a like, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure to share your thoughts in the comment section. And of course, if you want to learn more, not only check out the NFT Bible, but also make sure to reach out to us, everybody on the panel. We are more than happy to help you with your questions. That being said, I hope to see everybody in the future. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great day, everyone. All the best. Bye.
Thank you.